Indeed, it must be rejected by everybody. By all means, we must reject it. Now, one of those places people continue to, point fingers at is the electoral umpire. The masses continue to point fingers at the electoral umpire. So I ask, what can we say of INEC so far? Are they being a weapon for suppression, or are they a tool for the free and fair election that Nigerians have desired? I mean, you are somebody who has monitored election in several countries, and then you have monitored here in this nation. What would you say of the role of INEC in the suppression of the people?
Well, we've said this times without number at Yaga Africa, and I'm sure a plethora of civil society organizations hold this view, that INEC is an institution that has been captured by vested political interest. And the institution is captured in such a way that it cannot perform, its functions. So when you think about suppression, the Electoral Commission is also another instrument of suppression. And how do they do this? When voters go to the polling units, they cast their vote, and results are declared that are not a reflection of the will of the people. That is suppression. And it's the most unfortunate and the most really disappointing act in the democratic process. It is a heinous crime, especially when you have returning officers who mutilate results and announce results that are falsified. That is suppression. The other form of suppression is when citizens go and register to vote, and INEC says, come and collect your PVCs. And citizens show up to collect PVCs and they don't have their PVCs because either for one issue or the other, INEC is unable to produce their PVCs. And on the day of the election, citizens cannot vote. That is a form of suppression. When political actors buy votes from citizens at the polling units, and INEC officials and security agencies, fail to prevent that from occurring, they are also contributing to suppression, because weaponization of poverty to undermine or influence political choices itself is suppression. And so what you see coming out of election is not necessarily the free choice of people. It is procured votes because people have sold their votes because of their prevailing socioeconomic condition. And whilst that is the case, it should not be encouraged for people to sell their votes, because people also contribute to the suppression of their votes, especially when they sell their votes. This is using suppression loosely. But we've also seen cases of other forms of voter suppression that are not necessarily instigated by INEC, where thugs prevent registered voters from accessing polling units to cast their vote on the day of election. Is another heinous crime in our electoral process that must be addressed. And it's just the manner that it is committed with so much impunity is one thing that undermines the capacity of states to limit these kinds of deviant political behavior on the part of our ruling political elites.
All right. Mr. Itodo, I want you to speak to at least one major reform that can set the electoral umpire on the straight path to give Nigerians the society that they desire.
The one major reform targeted at INEC is we have to change the appointment process of commissioners in INEC. A situation where people who have political leanings are appointed into the Electoral Commission. You cannot rebuild trust and confidence in the Electoral Commission. There's a reason why politicians are appointing their cronies into the Electoral Commission. They do so to decapitate the Electoral Commission and make it impossible for INEC to deliver credible election. This is why Justice Way's committee recommended that we need to remove the power of appointing the INEC chairman, from the president, and also the power to appoint commissioners into state independent electoral commissions from the governors. When you do that, you technically insulate the electoral commission from politics. So that's one powerful reform. But the Constitution talks about non-partisanship and impeccable character or unquestionable integrity. I think that we need to review the conditions or the criteria to also include competence and skill. If you look at some of the recs, that were moved by the President and the National Assembly, as well as pressure from INEC, clearly tells you that competence is one big issue that needs to be considered when appointing people into the Electoral Commission. As we speak, there are 3 reps that were removed from office. And why? Because of corruption. And if you check how did those people get into the Electoral Commission, they were simply based on partisan appointment. So we need to change that process. I'm currently in Kenya, and as we speak today in Kenya, there's an interview for chair of the Kenyan Electoral Commission and commissioners of the Electoral Commission constituted. They will call for application, people will apply, and then they will be interviewed. It was just interesting to see people being shortlisted and applying for the job of the chair of the Electoral Commission being interviewed today. That's the kind of thing that we need to unpack, decouple, and transform this process of appointment into the Electoral Commission. That way it will guarantee the independence of the Electoral Commission, but it's not sufficient because INEC also needs financial independence. It is sad that as we speak, up till this moment, there are certain funds, INEC's funds, that have not been released to the Electoral Commission, either from the 2023 elections or for subsequent elections that the Commission has conducted. And if you want to undermine an Electoral Commission in the field of elections, all you need to do, attack his operational independence and attack his financial independence. You make it impossible for the Commission to do what? To organize credible elections.